This special edition of the Politics podcast is brought to you by everybody who is a Patreon at patreon.com/JURY. But enough of that. It's a bonus episode. Let's just do the damn thing, huh?
Politics, 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 politics.
Welcome, everybody, to this meeting of the Campaign Chaos Book Club. My name is Justin Robert Young. I will be reading for all of you my book report on the book Shattered, Inside Hillary Clinton's Doomed Campaign, written by Jonathan Allen and Arnie Parnes, a #1 New York Times bestseller that is described as such. It was never supposed to be this close, and of course she was supposed to win. How Hillary Clinton lost the 2016 election to Donald Trump is the riveting story of a sure thing gone off the rails. For every Comey revelation or hindsight acknowledgement about the electorate, no explanation of defeat can begin with anything other than the core problem of Hillary Clinton's campaign: the candidate herself. All right. I was thinking about how I should do this episode, what the best way to do this episode is. And I've kind of come to the following conclusion. I think that I want these because we're talking about touchy subjects. That's safe to say, right? That in general, people are a little raw by this stuff. So I figured I would do it in the fairest way possible, and that is to do it like a book report. So I went on to WikiHow, and I looked up how I write a book report, and we are going to follow those guidelines for this, the Campaign Chaos Book Club. We also have your emails that people have sent in since we first went off on this, and in the chat right now, if you guys can find a new book for us to read, I'd be happy to pick up on that, and we can all decide the next book that we would like to read. So let's go ahead and take a look here. WikiHow. Before you write, know the requirements of your assignment. Figure out what your teacher is looking for. Okay, well, we're just going to do a podcast. Read the book and annotate. Okay, cool. I read the book, and I definitely took notes. Outline the main ideas and sub-ideas of your book, or a book report. Okay, so here's where we're going to start. Shattered is a book about a flawed protagonist, Hillary Clinton. The antagonists are, in various orders, Donald Trump, and to a lesser extent, elements of her campaign that she believes is not doing a good enough job. So they're really kind of antagonists by way of incompetence. But let's circle back to our protagonist. When I say flawed, she's really kind of an anti-hero. There's a lot of unlikable traits that when you're reading through the book, you say, well, I don't know how much this person really wants to be president. I don't know how much this person really likes people. These ultimately are the elements that spell doom for her campaign. The sub-themes here are control, trying to restrict things so much that you ruin the general essence of them, and a insulation that eventually becomes fatal. All right, there we go. We got our sub-themes. All right, form your report. Let's go ahead and summarize the plot. Okay, let's go ahead and summarize the plot of Shattered. Shattered tells the story of Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was the first lady of the United States when her husband Bill Clinton became president in 1992. Previous to that, she was the first lady of Arkansas. She was a very active lawyer, and for as long as she has been alive, is regarded by her peers as one of the smartest people that she knows. She's intensely guarded, and specifically her time in the White House has led her to believe that there is a great force out to get her. That has created a shell. It's led her to take actions to mitigate what she assumes will be future poundings by those that are the wolves at her door, as it were. Ultimately, this story is about how that paranoia and quite possibly the fact that she was too scarred from her time in the White House to get back to the White House by herself. That if you believe honestly and truly, as we are led to in this book believe, that Hillary Clinton as a character truly understands that there is a vast right-wing conspiracy out to get her, then all of the actions that she takes are not only understandable, but within her own framework, justified. Now, from the outside, you can decide whether or not there really is a vast right-wing conspiracy out to get her. And you can decide whether or not the decisions that she made were made out of paranoia or out of necessity. But the end result, as we find, is that she is not that good of a candidate when she runs the first time. She winds up rehabilitating her political career by going into the State Department, and then tries to do the impossible. After a false start, she has one more window left open to become president. And this time, there will be no problems for her to make her way to the White House. She makes sure that all the obstacles are cleared. And yet, she cannot capture it. That's the plot. The plot of the story. All right, here we go. What else? What else do we need here? What else do we need? We're looking here. Start with a clear introduction. The first paragraph state the title and author of the book. Your teacher may want the publisher, year of publication, or genre. Okay, so I think I already did that. Create the body of your paper. For the next few paragraphs, refer to your teacher's assignment sheet to decide which parts of your outline you want to expand on the meat of your report. Consider giving your opinion on the book. Was it good? Was the book, what about the book made it good or bad, powerful or dull? Okay. I thought this book was good. I love books in this genre. I love tell-all campaign kind of books, which is why we're going to do a whole summer book club based on them. However, I did think that ultimately the story here is as much about Bernie Sanders and the Democratic primary as it is about the general election. And I almost would have preferred that the book either expand more time with both of them or you do two books. Because although they carry the central theme that Hillary Clinton is a flawed candidate and other flawed candidates who may not have been able to run against anybody else for some reason find their footing against her, the idea of Bernie Sanders eating her up from the left and Donald Trump, by hook or by crook, getting his way into the general election, let alone winning, really kind of deserves more time. It also obviously, as to be is understandable, is going to be sourced almost completely with Hillary Clinton staffers and loyalists and friends. Even the things that are mean about Hillary Clinton or other staffers are going to come from people that believed in the cause. And with that, there's just, the truth is going to get rounded off a little bit. In fact, one of my biggest criticisms of the book is that it doesn't go into the fact that Hillary Clinton had more superdelegates at the very, very, very beginning of the primary than any other candidate in history. I would have loved to have read more about how that came to be and exactly what the implications are. That this is not going to be a primary. This is going to be a coronation. Because you spend the rest of the book kind of going into the fact that they're running away from the fact that this isn't a coronation. But that's really where you begin to get it, right? Like they go into the idea that they are hiring all the best people away from potential other candidates. And you touch on the idea that the Clintons have a mafia level of family and loyalty that anybody who dares cross them will not only face the hot wrath of Satan, they will also be remembered in perpetuity because either Bill or Hillary apparently ever forget about a slight. But they don't really go into the horse trading of exactly the mechanics of that primary. And as things wound up getting tighter and tighter with Bernie, I would have loved to have seen that set up a little bit more. All right. Dig a little deeper. What are the major themes, motifs, and terms that the book introduced, and how effective are they? Does the book appeal to you in an emotional or logical way? Would you recommend this book to others? I would absolutely recommend this book to others, and I would very much recommend it to fans of Hillary Clinton, because I think that there is a lot of common ground in this book for Hillary Clinton and Bernie supporters, that there are some hearth truths about Clinton that kind of need to be looked at, especially if anybody has ideas on Chelsea Clinton running. And there is just this idea that maybe the kind of mafia level loyalty thing, good when it works, bad when it doesn't. Don't try to summarize every chapter or angle. Choose the ones that are most significant and interesting. All right, so here are things that I really, 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 really loved, because this is another thing I love about these kinds of books. The little tidbits. Oh, the little tidbits. Oh, this is my tidbit. This can be a little thing. A little tidbit. A little tidbit. It was a thing you didn't know, and now you know it's a tidbit. Chat, do you know why Hillary Clinton set up a private email server? If you remember the book, then you will remember the answer to this. If you have not read the book, then you might not know this, because I had not read this previously. Did you know why at the State Department Hillary Clinton began using a private email server, something that bedeviled her not only throughout the campaign, but also something that, even 2 weeks ago, according to the Attorney General, or Assistant Attorney General, was the reason why James Comey got fired. TVZ Gone says, wasn't it because Colin Powell did the same thing? No, not really. According to this book, the reason why Hillary Clinton set up a private email server, P. Viber says, from my understanding, lots of people use private email servers and other services because the government services sucked. Because then she wouldn't have to use 2 BlackBerries. Hillary Clinton was incensed. This is according to the book, the reporting in the book. This isn't me saying it. Hillary Clinton was incensed by how poorly her 2008 campaign was ran. And to try to do the most effective autopsy that she possibly could, she had all the emails pulled from her old campaign server, so she could go through them and look at who was at fault when all the chips were down. Also, she was very, very interested to see how the infighting worked, because she had stayed out of it. but knew that infighting wound up costing her momentum in her campaign. And that ultimately people started pointing fingers and it eroded morale. So she wanted to find out who talked shit on who talked shit about her behind her back, who made the decisions that led to their ruination. So, one of the thoughts she had when reviewing all this data was, oh my God, people put a lot of information into these emails. I didn't realize how much you can pull from an email server. I know that I'm going to run for president. And now that I've taken this position in the State Department, anything that I send on state email will be subject to FOIA requests. Like I said before, since Hillary Clinton knows and understands within her own mind that there is a vast right-wing conspiracy, she's looking at these emails and saying, well, hell, I could make hay out of this email. I could make hay out of that email. I could make hay out of that email. So you know what? Now that all the emails that I have that I'm going to write are going to be in the public eye, what do you say they're not? You know, I heard Colin Powell say that he did his own email server. What do you say I just do my own email server as well? So according to the book, that was the beginning of it, was reading over her 2008 campaign's email and realizing exactly how much goes into that. And then deciding that she was going to do the best she could to avoid there being a campaign scandal about thought to be private emails becoming public. Oh my God, ladies and germs, that's what we like to call in the literary world as foreshadowing. Because, holy crap, is that amazing. I mean, is that not a great tidbit? That's a great little tidbit. Like, she literally set up the private email server because that was her way of avoiding thought to be private emails becoming public and tanking her campaign. That's insane. All right, what else do we need to do for this book report? Do you agree with the author's arguments and conclusions? What are the overall responses to the book? Well, the overall responses to the book critically have been very positive. You know, I think it's gotten fairly good reviews. I haven't really read any kind of takedowns of it. I did get a couple, and we're going to get to the emails that got sent in a little bit. But there were some people that were like, oh, this is a hit piece on Trump. Like, calm down. Like, yeah. Every source in the book is from the Clinton campaign because it's about the Clinton campaign. They hate Trump a lot. They think he's a danger to the nation and that he's a bad person personally. So there we go. Something else that was really interesting was that Donald Trump called Bill Clinton before he ran. Wanted to get Bill Clinton's opinion on stuff right before he ran. And Bill Clinton took the call because he's Bill Clinton. He talks to everybody. TT Steve says, I can't imagine why you'd be like, let's avoid a FOIA instead of just saying that, hey, don't email that. I mean, I think what spooked her, according to the book, is that, like, they thought they were being careful in 2008 about not putting stuff into emails. And then she read all those emails, and she's like, oh, my God, any one of these could be a gigantic thing. But ultimately, the lesson here is, you know, paranoia. Paranoia. It is her Achilles heels. All right, let me get into something else. This is my another favorite thing. All right, so tidbits Our favorite tidbits are going to be part of this campaign chaos club. I love a little tidbit. Love a little tidbit. Here's another one. Another thing that is in every great campaign chaos book. Who blames who? Because I want everybody to start reading these books the way that I read them, which is you start reading who is just taking massive dumps on certain people, and you find either explicitly or implicitly who hates whose guts and who went to these authors and was like, yo, this person ruined the campaign. This person hates this other person. So who blames who? Hillary Clinton blames Robbie Mook, the campaign director, as well as a litany of other people for her campaign falling apart. Robbie Mook blames everybody and Hillary. In fact, a key element that you can tell was contentious between the sources is the fact that Hillary believed that in 2008 they were too crazy with the money, spent too much money, they weren't efficient. So this time, she wanted a campaign manager that was going to keep the purse strings tight. So she brings on Robbie Mook. Robbie Mook says, you want to know what? You brought me in here. I'm going to be efficient. I'm only going to use the best, the finest analytics in all the land. And we will not willy-nilly spend money where we don't have to. And then things started going wrong. And everybody in the campaign, including Hillary, started asking, why aren't we spending more money? Why don't we have more of a team on the ground here? Why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? So Robbie Mook blames everybody, but also Hillary. Because Robbie Mook apparently was one of the people inside the campaign that was just begging. I'm begging you, Hillary. You got to get out there and just say that you're sorry for the email thing. Just let it go. And she was very unwilling. So Robbie Mook blames everybody and Hillary. John Podesta blames Robbie Mook. You're going to see Mook a lot on these lists. A lot of people blame Mook. He's too spendthrift. He doesn't believe in boots on the ground. He's targeting the wrong towns. He's obsessed with these demographics that we're not going to win by. You're not paying attention to the facts on the ground that there is we're taking white working class voters in Democratic areas for granted. But the numbers were the numbers, and the firewall was going to hold, and Robbie Mook based his career on it, and he turned up snake eyes. John Podesta is somebody that's closer to Hillary, certainly closer to Bill, certainly closer to outgoing President Barack Obama, was not pleased with the way that Mook was running the campaign. So it's fairly clear that Podesta blames Mook. And then we come to Bill. Because as far as the characters in this little story go, by far to me the most interesting is Bill Clinton. We join this weather-beaten character at a very interesting point in his life. Once the most powerful politician on the planet and renowned for his acumen, specifically when it comes to southern and rural elements of our country, Bill Clinton is now dishonored, beat up, and an outright liability if his wife is the person running for the presidency. He's dishonored because he kind of pooped the bed when Hillary was running against Barack Obama. He really sort of took his first black president thing a little too seriously and wound up speaking a little bit too frankly about his opinions about, the actual prospective first black president, and wound up kind of falling out of favor with a lot of young Democrats. Previously, the group that he could energize very easily. He also started to lose his cool a little bit. Traditionally, Bill Clinton was unflappable. he might get a little dicky and do the thing where he leans in and, like, touches a reporter's thigh to show dominance. But in general, he was a guy that was pretty unshakable. And in the 2008 campaign, he was really, really, really a cantankerous old cur and just wasn't the Bill Clinton that everybody remembered. Flash forward to 2012, he had one of the best speeches of his life. Came out and just did an unscripted 40-minute guitar solo for Barack Obama, was the highlight of the Democratic National Convention, and even got Barack Obama himself to come out on stage when he wasn't scheduled to be seen until the next night. So a little rehab there, certainly some mending of fences. But the reason why you didn't see a lot of Bill on the campaign trail during the last campaign was, well, he's a liability. They wanted to distance Hillary from the Clinton. That's why Hillary was on the poster, not Hillary Clinton. They wanted Hillary to have her own legacy. And when she is running with an element of gender identity to her campaign, Bill Clinton brings up some fairly troubling elements. You know, when Hillary Clinton goes out on stage and says that you should always believe the woman in cases of sexual assault, and Juanita Broderick comes out, even super lefty folks have to be like, okay, that one's a little hard to swallow because, you know, whether or not you believe that Juanita Broderick actually was raped by Bill Clinton, as she claims, if you just said you should always believe the woman, again, she's going to get an element of that no matter what. But when Bill's out on stage, it's all that much harder, right? And yet, there is old wizard Bill Clinton, beaten and disgraced, getting barked around by some 20-something hipster in horn-rimmed glasses, given talking points instead of being allowed to extemporaneously charm the pants off of the same electorate for which he was the king. It's a reduced role, but one that he's willing to play. Because, real talk, regardless of where you are politically, the marriage of Bill and Hillary Clinton is one of the most fascinating things on the planet. But no matter what, Bill Clinton saw this coming. Bill Clinton spends this book in the background, literally muttering about Brexit the entire time. He just keeps saying, I don't know, Brexit. I don't know, Brexit. People come to talk to him. All he wants to do is talk about Brexit. There's something happening. There's something happening. There's something happening. Robbie Mook says, hey, you got to go talk to the inner city. Black people love you, and we need to extend our coalition into the Obama coalition. And since Bernie has kind of burnt us on young voters, we need to have as many black voters as possible. Now that you've kind of reconciled your, your 2008 faux pas, what do you say you head out into the inner city? Bill Clinton's like, I don't know, man. I kind of feel like I should be out in these small towns. I kind of feel like I should be talking to union voters. I kind of feel like I shouldn't be in I shouldn't be in Philadelphia. I should be out in that red T. I should be talking to everybody that I know I can talk to because I can speak non-college educated white. Bill Clinton, one of the foremost naturals in that specific dialect. And yet they kept him away. And by and large, he took his medicine. This wasn't his campaign. He wasn't going to throw his weight around. He'd use some of his surrogates to put pressure here and there. But mostly it's, the old vegan husk of what used to be Big Willie walking around various hotel rooms, muttering under his breath, Brexit, Brexit, Brexit. Here's something else. Another little tidbit. Tidbit. Did you know that the FBI hacking revelation, so this was James Comey saying that they believed that it was indeed Russia that hacked the DNC emails that gave them to WikiLeaks and then gave them to WikiLeaks. That plus the Podesta emails, which were a different email dump, either of which were Hillary's private emails, that the Podesta email dump and the grab her by the pussy tape breaking on the Washington Post site all happened on the same day? The exact same 24-hour period. First it was Comey, then it was grab her by the pussy, then it was the Podesta emails. All in one day. That has to be the craziest day in modern political history. I can't even think of a day. And you can say that the Podesta emails might have come as a reaction to the FBI statement, but who knows where that pussy tape came from. And that is wound up becoming a bigger story, something that the Hillary Clinton campaign bemoans greatly, by the way, because they believed that the story that was going to come out of there was the FBI saying that Russia was involved. But ultimately, this is the kind of fatal flaw of that campaign, is that even if Russia came out and said, we never want Hillary Clinton to be president, the fact that those emails were out there and they showed hard proof that in the Dennis Green of it all, she was who we thought she were, doesn't matter. Same way it doesn't matter that, sure, you can say locker room talk, but Donald Trump was who we thought he was. He's kind of a creep. He's gross. He's disgusting. He's a philandering douche. But ultimately, the FBI saying, no, the agency that posted this to Pastebin was this team, not the other team. It's always going to be blown out of the water by a candidate being on tape saying that he grabs women by the pussy. It's just going to happen. So let's get into our big summation. Actually, no. You want to let's read the emails here. Thank you to everybody who read the book and wrote in. I hope that we get more of these going forward. Big Jim wrote in. So I'm in the middle of chapter 4, and I keep thinking about what I keep thinking about is what we learned in the Isaacson book about Steve Jobs and his reality distortion field. I ponder, is that what we're seeing here? Are all political leaders like this? Do all of them face the same reality distortion? Obviously, Trump does. Otherwise, he would probably rein in at least a few of the things that he says. The picture of Sanders from chapter 3 makes me think that there are a few out there that have a common belief that they want to make change, but that doesn't push too hard on the belief that they think they can actually win. I'm actually kind of interested in what happens when I'm done with this book and Kasich's new book, Two Paths. And then he gets into a lot of John Kasich book stuff. I guess first we have to ask, why are we reading this book in the first place? Are you looking for the sexy topics, scandal, deceit, treachery? Then you're probably going to like the Clinton book. There's plenty of blame to go around for why she didn't win, but much of it, as you've stated, fell on her. How can you have a staff and ridicule them and expect them to build a team spirit to overcome? Why did they stick around? Simple. They were trying to get some plum job when and if she won. They all put their eggs in one basket and then decided to drop the basket down a flight of stairs that stretched from the International Space Station to the core of the Earth. It's labeled as a tell-all, but in all honesty, I felt more like a, quote, you should have chosen Bernie book. Sorry, maybe it's just the way that I think, that the authors edited this account and the stories always make it sound like Bernie was the good guy and Clintons were the big evil corporation. Kyle writes, I picked up this book on your recommendation and finished it last night. I give it 2 out of 5 stars. From the title of the book, I was expecting more of a critical eye toward the campaign, but the authors were quite the apologists for the Hill Dogs. While they mentioned and talked around the lack of unifying message in Hillary Clinton's campaign, they never tried to explain the root causes or do any kind of failure analysis on the campaign. They kept focusing on the petty insider conflicts and obsessive need to make analytics their scapegoat buzzword, which indeed they do. Analytics versus polling becomes a big thing, especially by the end. But let's hit on something else that Kyle said, because this is my summation. These are my final thoughts. Ultimately, Hillary Clinton launched her campaign, and as is described by the book, did not have any kind of theming, any kind of message. Even leading up to the Democratic National Convention, she didn't really know exactly what her campaign was about. You know, I read this and I just couldn't help but think that this is kind of like launching a gigantic movie without a script. You know, just not having exactly what you want to be told, despite the fact that you have so much effort. You have literally every way for this movie to succeed. You have every advantage. People know exactly who you are. And yet, you don't seem to understand that people need to connect emotionally with what you're doing. Otherwise, it's literally just a bizarre, dark cash grab. The fact that Hillary Clinton made it all the way to the Democratic National Convention before she had any kind of emotional hook into this campaign.
You're letting him kill Martha.
It just made me think that
What does that mean?
this could have been different.
Why did you say that name? Find him! Save Martha!
And there we go. The book Shattered, delving into how Hillary Clinton improbably lost her campaign to win the White House. I do highly recommend that that anybody go ahead and check this out. I really, really, really dug it. The next book that we're going to do, I hope will be a Trump campaign one. I haven't found any, but if anybody has any suggestions, go ahead and email in theyoungamerican@gmail.com. I love doing this. I love talking about it, and hopefully we can do more and better versions of it as we go forward. Thank you guys for hanging with me during this special edition of the podcast.
Politics, 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 politics.
I will see you guys down the road. Peace.
Yes.
Please, stop!
Why did you say that name?
It's his mother's name! It's his mother's name.
Best movie moment in history.